What's good, Black Star Podcast? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Jared. Y'all, today we'll be looking at a video from Anton Daniels. Now, remember the video I posted a couple weeks ago and it was talking about how women were divorcing their husbands because they were voting against their supposed rights. They were voting against them. I want you to take a look at this. And look at this woman.
I married a Trump supporter, and this is how it went. Before I go into the story, I want to preface by saying that I believe there is a difference between a Trump supporter and a Republican. He would constantly say things like, build the wall. Even after I told him how hurtful and disrespectful hearing that was, because I came from a family of immigrants. Because of this experience that I had with my ex, being a Trump supporter is a deal breaker for me. The main reasons for this is because anytime me and my ex argued, he was always threatening to call ICE on my family. And the relationship was very abusive, but I stayed because of these threats. I felt guilty a lot of the times for putting my family at risk.
First red flag. She said that he was threatening to call ICE on your family. So does that mean that your family was illegal immigrant? Because if they was illegal immigrants, okay, I see why. But if they were legal immigrants, how could they get deported by ICE?
Consistently used me as an example as to why he's not racist because he married a Mexican. Basically treated me as an exception. One time we were at his family's house and his Trump supporting family cornered me and harassed me about my political views. And I was in a corner like this and I had like 3 females in front of me arguing with me. He watched this happen and didn't do anything about it. And it was not one of those healthy political discussions. They were literally hounding me. Just because he married me does not mean he respected me. I come from a town that I would say is predominantly conservative. Back then, I wasn't as outspoken as I am now because I was still in the town at the time and I did have a fear of speaking out because of how aggressive they were. Has anyone had similar experiences like these?
So she goes on apparently to say that she divorced the guy. And I think that she's right and she's wrong. Let me start off by saying that make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. And then last but not least, make sure you get your tickets to come and kick it with me in person December 14th in Detroit. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Discount code Anton is in the description. I also want to say that I always like to support content creators, regardless of whether I agree with them or not. And so that link back to their profile will be down in the description of the video. Now, let me tell you why she's right and she's wrong, okay? Now, let me also preface this by saying that there's always 2 sides to a story, and so we don't know what his perspective is. And it's always people that like to fabricate or add to or take away a little bit from it, so she don't necessarily want to say what she said or how if she disrespected him or anything like that, but we just gonna take it at face value and on surface level to have this conversation. Number one, I want to go over why she's wrong. She's wrong because is your family illegal? That's number one. And was he right about building the wall? Him saying build the wall, unless he's saying it specifically to get a rise out of you, that's an objective view, and I think that we should have strong borders.
That's exactly what I said, because like, okay, if her family is an illegal family, okay, I will understand why she'll be upset. But if they're not, then there's no reason for you to be offended by it, because there's a lot of Hispanic people that are calling for the wall to be built too. So to be honest with you, it sounds like her family is an illegal migrants. But you never know.
When it comes to the relationship, however, if he's doing it specifically to irritate you or to insult your family, then I think that that intention is wrong, even if what he's saying is right. And so he knows who you are. He knows, who he married. And as a result, he should take into consideration what he's gotten himself into, which then leads me to point number two. She's not wrong because he knows who he married and he should have been equally yoked with that person instead of using it as leverage to continue to degrade the person or hold them hostage inside of a relationship. And so if we're taking it at surface value, that's why she's saying that she stayed. The other part where she's wrong at is not all people that voted or support Trump, because she made a distinction between, you know, she don't have a problem with Republicans, but she has a problem with Trump supporters. And this is why I don't like people that's radical on both sides. And I got to be objective here, right? Come on, y'all. We got to be objective. And saying that an extreme of anything and not having temperance is always going to make the rest of the flock look bad. So when you see people on the left, for example, or they may be Democrats or they may be voting for a specific reason that then affects their lives, we may not necessarily agree with it, but it doesn't mean that they're radical. And so as long as you're not crashing out and forcing your lifestyle on somebody else, then cool. I respect your right to vote in the United States of America just like everybody else. And that's why I think that people are sore losers out here crying and whining and saying that they're going to defect away from the United States of America because they said that they wanted a free and fair election. They got it. Trump got voted into office because of the reasons that actually benefit, United States citizens, and we don't want forever wars and all of that other stuff. You know why you got voted in. And so with people that don't respect other people and then they get radicalized, that's when it becomes a problem. And it's the same thing when it comes to the right. When you see people that are so extreme to where they're ready to corner you inside of a room, and that's the part where she's right about, is that she deserves a level of respect, and you as a man should basically make sure you create an environment where you don't put your spouse in an environment for her to be attacked like that, right? The first thing that you and your wife are, you are one. This is just a fact. And so if you wind up marrying somebody, and this is why we got to be accountable for our decisions, both men and women, if you wind up marrying somebody that is not aligned with you politically, spiritually, where the direction that your life is going and all of that type of stuff, you are going to run into problems, especially with your family. And so if you wanted to defect away from what your cultural norms are, and you decided that you wanted to marry a Mexican and you're a white man, then you're going to have problems if you bring them to family dinner and your family is a little bit more aggressive. You have to be cognizant of that, and you have to be mindful to make sure that you are not putting them in a difficult position. And so
I can agree on that because I'm like this. If you have a difference of opinion, that's cool. Just be respectful about it. But to me, it seems like him and his family were a little bit aggressive when it came to having this talk about Trump. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I voted for Trump because of his policies. I didn't vote for him because of his his I didn't vote for him because of his demeanor, or I should say his charm. I'll put it like that. But for the most part, a lot of people say the same thing too. They didn't vote for Trump just because they like him. They voted for him because of the policies that he provided.
him letting that happen and validating it versus, putting her in a position or not even getting with her in the first place is a problem. And so she's right about that. She's right about the fact that, he should have never, or she should have never been in that position. But again, everybody that vote or support Trump is not necessarily a bad person. We just have different views and different values of what we think America is. If your family is here illegally and you not saying nothing because you don't want to get them deported, I can understand it because you personally associated with it, but it doesn't make it right that they came here illegally. They still here illegally. Now, somebody leveraging that and using that over your head, that's a problem too, and it makes them wrong. So two wrongs don't make a right. They never should have been in a relationship. They never should have gotten married. And I applaud her for getting out of that. But then at the same time, I have to hold her accountable for why she married a guy that she was not equally yoked with. I believe that the other side of the conversation is that she was opportunistic. She's not going to say that. She's not going to tell them that. She's not going to have that extended conversation. Because a lot of women and a lot of people in general are looking for likes and views and for people to support them. And so I wish that people would tell the whole story as to why they got into it instead of just giving you a snippet of why somebody else was wrong and they're abusive. No, for some reason, I tend to believe you loved him and y'all said y'all loved each other and that's why y'all got married in the first place. Somewhere in there, you knew who he was and you still chose to be with him, but you don't want to hold yourself accountable for that. Is he wrong for leveraging that in the relationship if it's true? Absolutely. But do we also take accountability for who you are? And was he wrong about we should secure our borders and build the wall? No, he wasn't wrong about that. But if he's leveraging that in order to continue to take advantage of you because y'all was in a toxic relationship and you chose to marry a man because you was opportunistic, then you need to bring yourself to the front of the congregation and hold yourself accountable for that too. So I think that there's context and I think that there's nuance and the ability to be objective to analyze a situation and give more context to it. I think we need more discernment. We can't just align with people just because they say that they support one thing or the other. I do think that people are extreme. That does not represent the majority. I think the majority of the people are logical, and there's Democrats that voted for Republicans, and there's Republicans that voted for Democrats. I think that you have to have sense and you have to make it make sense for what you're doing, but more importantly, be careful of the people that you associate with because they may not have your same values and y'all just gonna clash and ain't nobody gonna change because you knew who they were when you got with them.
And that I can agree with because the way that a lot of people are saying, they're saying that a lot of people that voted for Trump are Trump supporters when actually, and quite frankly, that's not the case. Especially for me. I didn't vote for him because of his charm. Most of the policies that he had, I agreed with. And a lot of people, they don't want to hear it because, you're voting for Trump. But they don't actually listen to the reason why people are voting for him. Now, back to her. If you're putting your wife into a situation like that and you know how your family is and how aggressive your family can be, first off, I wouldn't allow my wife to be in that situation in the first place. That's just me. Two, I would have checked my family right then and there. Because they gotta remember, that's my wife. You gotta give her that respect because obviously this is the mother of my children or this is the woman I married that I want to have a family with. If your family is that aggressive, then that's when you kind of need to have a little conversation with your family. Like, okay, y'all need to cool the fuck off and actually talk to them. But I'm gonna just say this though, I don't agree that she came on the internet and talked about it like that just for clicks and views without having the side of her ex-husband. I don't agree with that because you could be forming an opinion that's singular instead of having a multiple points of view. So you're giving everybody your point of view instead of it being a two-sided conversation. They're just getting your one side versus the man's side, and then there's only understanding on your side, but none for the guy. That's why I hate that a lot of these women nowadays are trying to go online, trying to make money off of shit like that, and then basically trashing the guy. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this podcast episode. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.